In 1980, Ian Curtis, who was the front man of Joy Division, who in turn were an alternative rock band from the UK, Ian Curtis took his own life. The remaining three members of Joy Division decided they wanted to carry on as a band, but they had had a pact in Joy Division that if any one member left, they would not continue to use the name. Therefore, with a partial change of members, they morphed into New Order. So they pursued a kind of guitar-based rock for a while, and then they got interested in electronic music and became one of the foremost proponents of electronic dance music, and a formative band for the emerging Manchester scene, which exploded in popularity in the 90s, and in turn was part of the foundations for Britpop. They have had 10 studio albums and a couple of breaks in service. Hi, my name's Dan. So this was the fourth album by New Order, and it's my first time listening to it. It's possible that I've heard the track Bizarre Love Triangle before. So it's a very 80s sound, and it's kind of split into two halves. So the first half has a focus on a guitar sound that's kind of a jangly guitar sound, within a kind of, well, it's been described as a post-punk rock style. It's still quite metronomic. I don't think it sounds very. It doesn't sound as harsh as some post-punk does, but it sounds quite. It's kind of got an atmospheric slight emptiness at times. Again, that's probably not the right word for it. It's just very kind of 80s in that sense, and it reminds me of actually some of the stuff from The Cure, to be honest, in sound. And the second half is more electronic, which is what a lot of people think of when they think of New Order, I think. And certainly that's the stuff that they became particularly famous for. The singing is quite laconic, and it has this kind of detached feel, which, again, is a very 80s thing to have. It's quite a low voice. It's quite distinctive. Um, and I particularly liked it when they included some female vocals. I think that was Julian Gilbert, who was a band member at the time. Um, I found that I didn't really know or particularly care what the songs were about, I have to say. So in the past, my responses to New Order, well, my responses to New Order kind of at the time in the 80s were that I wasn't particularly bothered or particularly interested. I think they were one of those bands that I actually took a slight objection to, not because of them, but because of the number of people who really raved about them. And that tended to put me off things at that point in time. I think occasionally it still does. So my responses in general to New Order are more positive than they were, but they're still kind of meh. So kind of there's a general lack of engagement from me with them. But when I hear their stuff in particular, when there's some of the earlier stuff, some of the earlier guitar-based stuff particularly, I felt wasn't very strong. And the first half of this album, less convinced by. I think it's better than some of their stuff from earlier than this. And then generally some of the electronic stuff I respond to a bit better because I think that they did do the electronic stuff reasonably well. So it's kind of meh, yeah, okay, a bit, and that's where I am. I'm kind of middling, and I'm not that bothered really. And that's my response to this album is that I listened to it. I listened to it twice. I didn't actually particularly object to it, but I wasn't actually also particularly that impressed by it either. Just not really my kind of thing. And I don't know why, because there's other stuff that's similar that I might rave about or might, reject at a hand. This was very much of a middle reaction from me. So that's what I think. As always, I'd love you to tell me what you think of this album. So please do by leaving a comment. And that's it from me for now.